Okay, this video is going along with Chapter 11, Section 1, dealing with compound interest. The first thing they're asking us to do is to determine the number of compounding periods and the rate for each period, and that is critical. It's because we're going to need to be able to apply that skill in the later sections of this chapter. So the first example is done for us. We have 3 years, the rate is 13%, and it's compounded annually. So there are 3 periods, because annually means that there is 1 a year, and there are 3 years. So you take 1 into 3, that's how they got the 3. And the rate per period, since it's the same, there's just 1 period, everything is 13. So there wasn't anything too complicated there. So the second example is number 2. We have 5 years, rate is 4%, compounded quarterly. So that means that there are 4 compounding periods each year. So 4 times 5, then there's going to be a total of 20 periods. Okay, and then there are 4 periods, it's 4%, so each period is going to give us then 1%. See how they're doing that? Say the periods is going to be how often times how long, and then once you get how often, you divide that into the rate to get the rate per period. So let's do one more of those. So monthly then was going to be 12 periods. We have 6%. Okay, and again we're going to take the months times the years, so we have then of course 72 counting periods, and each period then is you take the months into the percent. Well, so 6 basically divided by 12 is going to give us 0.5 or 0.5% per period. Okay, that's how to do that first section, and that's critical because we're going to need that later on in order to figure out the compounding structure here. So what is compound interest? Well, compound interest, we were doing simple interest last chapter. Well, compound means that you take the interest and add that into your starting value for your next period that you're going to get interest for, so that you make more money. So number 8 is done, but I wanted to show you how they got that. So we have principal is $400, the rate is 10% annually, so it's done once, okay, and a period of 2 years. So basically it's principal times the rate times the time, right, in years. So the principal here is going to be $4,000 times 0.10%, and since we're doing it annually, it's just going to be 1 year. So we could probably do that one in our head, but I'm going to do it on the calculator here so you can just kind of see how it goes. So we have 4,000 times 0.1 equals $400 times 1. I didn't do that, but it's assumed. Okay, so that next, because we're doing it for 2 years, that next value then is going to be the principal plus the interest. So our next starting value is going to be 4,400 because you got the interest at the end of the first year. So again, we're timesing everything again. So I'll times the 1 just to, okay. So we got another $440 of interest, and we add that on to our principal that we started with. So then we would have, hence how they got that. Okay, so now the nice thing about this, if you do it for, quarterly or monthly, and you're doing this compounding, that's going to get pretty old pretty fast doing it longhand. So luckily they came up with a chart, and the chart is on page 345. So they took the math that we just did, that's done in the example here. So you get that, where they did, they did the interest and they did the math, they added it, and then they did the math, they added it, and they did the math and they added it, and so on and so forth. Well, again, that's going to get kind of boring to do it longhand, so they came up with a cheat sheet. Okay, and the cheat sheet is very cool. So it gives you the periods along the left, and it gives you the interest rate along the top. And all you have to do is go down and get the multiplication factor. I call it the finagling factor, because they've done all that math on the other page that I showed you, all those calculations. They made you this nice chart. The chart is wonderful. So we're going to use that in order to do most of the rest of this unit. Okay, so so using our chart then, number 12 is given there. They had 7,000. So that's your principal, right? And it's a rate of 4%. It's, oh, excuse me, this is the years. This is the rate. Okay? And so when you look on your chart, then you would get 1.63047. And then we would multiply that then by the 7,000. Good. Hence, we would get our compounded amount, and then to get your interest, you just simply subtract your principal. So that's how they got this. They just took the 7,000 off of that. Okay? So let's do another one of those. So we had our time in years of 3 years. Our percent is 8%, and it's done quarterly. So that means it's going to be 4 times a year, right? Okay. And what is going to be the rate per quarter? Well, if you're doing it 4 times a year and you have 8, you're going to get 2% per quarter. So that's the column you use on the table. Okay, so you have how many periods, right? 3 years, 4 times, you're going to have 12 periods. So you're looking up 12 periods at 2%. So when we go 12 periods at 2%, we get 1.26824. Okay, I sped it up a little bit before video purposes. So we just simply apply, then come back, let's see, get that over where you can see it, times 1.26824 equals 672167, and we want to know the interest, so we're just going to subtract the principal off of that. So we would have 142167. Okay, pretty straightforward. So the next section, number 19 here, it's asked, well, what if that information is not in the table? How do you find that? Well, here they did number 19, which is pretty close to example in your textbook on example 3, where they broke this down because they have monthly for 3 years. They need a total of 36 units. So they took the number for 18 and 18 of 1.19615 and 1.19615, and they multiplied them together to get the 14307748. Okay, and then they rounded, and then they just multiplied. Okay, so if it's not in the table, we have to create a table. So number 20 annually, so it's 9%. We need 29 years. So you can do any combination. You can do 12 and 17 or 20 and 9. It doesn't matter. I picked 14 and 15 because it seemed to be about half. And so in the table then, I came up with 3.34173 and 3.6248. You multiply those together and you get 12.172184. Okay, so once you have that, your new table amount, you just simply do your multiplication. So this is going to be a big number because you've got this money in there for 29 years. So you're going to come up with a pretty good size number here. So that's right. 231,271.50. Going to round that up. Okay? So again, if you don't have the numbers you need in your table, you can make them by multiplying the two parts to get the whole. Again, the combination doesn't matter. Like you said, you could have took 12 years and 17 to get the 29. Doesn't matter. The answer is going to be the answer. That's the way the table works. Okay, so as we're continuing to build here, we have additional problems starting with 24, where they're getting you your percentage rate is 10%. You're doing it semi-annually, which means that it's happening twice a year. So each period then is going to be 5%. Okay? And that's the table you're looking up, the 5% table, not the 10% table, because each period, what percentage? Okay? So when we do it, we plug our numbers in here. So we can come right back here. So we have 5,000 times our finagling number here. Okay? We would get our 5,212.50. Okay? And they want to know the annual percentage rate. Well, after you subtracted your principal, you take, so that was our interest, right? And then we would divide that then by our principal in order to get our annual rate. So just again move that over, change it to a percent. Okay? So once you get the interest divided by the principal, it gets your annual percentage rate. And you'll notice it's slightly higher than the stated interest rate. You notice that on credit cards too. They'll have that annual APR will be 24.95 and etc. So you'll see that APY very, very commonly placed in lots of things. So let's do another one of those. Number 26. The rate is 12% monthly, so that means that there are 12 units. So each unit then, so you take the 12% divided by the 12, you're going to get 1% each time. So then that would be the table you're looking for. So you would have 12 periods, 1%. So the table amount is going to be that. So then we would times that by, wish this didn't go to sleep quite as fast here. So we would have then our 3,600 times 1.12683. That equals 40,000. They say, well, why is that a big number? Well, it also includes the principal of 36. Okay? So you subtract that. That's where they got the 4,000. So let's go ahead and do that. So that's our interest in 1 year. And now we want to know the APY. So we're going to divide that by, correct, the principal. Scoot that over to 12.68%. Okay? Let's continue. On the very back part of the assignment, they're asking you to use the annual percentage formula for compound interest. And that's this. Okay? Whoops, can't see it. Annual percentage then is the principal multiplied by 1 plus the interest as the exponent then, and then is the number of years. Okay? So, in the example then on 35, they had the rate of 4.2. Semi-annual, which means that it's twice a year. Okay, so each period then is going to be half the rate of 2.1. All right, so we change that to a percent. So we have 1 plus 0.021. So now I'm going to rewrite that formula then. And that's going to be to the 8th, because there are 2 periods each year. 4 years gives a total of 8 periods. So hopefully you have a calculator here, and I'm going to get mine to cooperate, I hope, by turning it sideways. Come on, there we go. Okay, I'm going to put that right here, maybe. All right, so clear off this last one. So when we're doing this on our calculator here, we would take the principal. Actually, I don't want to do that first. I want to do the exponent first. So I have 1.021, and I'm going to use this y to the x. So the y to the x button is what I need. So I'm going to do y to the x, and here's the x. 8 equals. Okay, so our finagling factor then, or our multiplier, is going to be 1.18088, and so on. Okay, and then we just simply times that then by our principal to get our total interest. Okay, and then you subtract your principal to get your compounded interest amount. All right, so let's do another one of those. So we have 8 time periods. We get 1.5% a month, and it's monthly, so that means there are 12. So means that we are going to take 1.5 and divide by 12, which is going to be 0.125 each period. Okay, so this is going to be per period. All right, so as we're setting up our formula, and move that over to a decimal. Okay, and we have 8 time periods, or 8 years. 12 months going to give me a multiplier then of 96. So it's a good thing we can do that on the calculator, because we sure don't want to do that longhand. So we have 1.00125 y to the x, 96. Oop. Fat fingers. 96 equals. Okay, so we have our bracket taken care of, times the 700. So we would get then a total then of 789.19. Okay, so our interest then would be minus the principal. Okay, fairly straightforward. If you do not have a scientific calculator, you're going to need to get one, because that exponent button to do these types of problems is invaluable, because you certainly don't want to do 96 periods longhand. I mean, we did 2, and we were starting to getting a little bit bored with doing it that way when we were doing longhand. So again, these aren't too bad. If you have the calculator that works like that, wonderful. If not, maybe you can borrow one. Have fun with these. Straightforward for the most part. Just be careful. The key components then is getting the correct interest per period, okay, in order to look in the chart, because if you get the wrong number in the chart, your answers are wrong. So if it looks a little funny and it's not matching up, this is probably where you're getting it wrong, would be the interest per period, okay, per time. If you have 2 times 4.2%, it's only 2.1 per time. And that's the key factor with these. Like up here, you had 12% monthly, so you only had 1% each time, and so it's the 1% column. All right, so just be careful with those. Have fun.